Hey, welcome back to the Cheap Air Gunner channel. I'm Cherokee Steve. I've got some updates on my project planning for whenever it is that I get my 2400 KT from the Crosman Custom Shop. Still waiting on that. But a couple more items have showed up that will be a part of the upgrade series. Number one, couple of minor things, replacement forearm stock. Again, when I add the conversion kit that should convert the gun from CO2 to high pressure air, it appears that this particular length of forearm is going to have to be cut down, and I did not want to hack up and screw up the one that comes with the gun if I ever decided to convert it back to CO2. So I bought an extra one, and that showed up. Of course, I won't know where and exactly how to cut it till I get the gun. Really nice item. A TKO 6.5 inch muzzle brake suppressor. Carbon fiber. Really nice unit. That should also fit in nicely with the carbon fiber theme of the gun, which I ordered it in the carbon fiber look. It's not carbon fiber, but it has that type of look to it. I have various parts here that are all part of the kit I bought off of eBay. There was some confusion, some lack of specifics. It is from China, so the write-up on exactly what was going to come with the kit, I really wasn't quite clear. Based on the photos, it looked like it was going to come with everything that would be needed. Based on the price, I had extremely hoped it would come with everything that would be needed. As a matter of fact, one of the things that it came with, which I really wasn't expecting, was a high pressure air tube. This is that. If you decided to go this particular route and buy this particular kit, you don't need any additional air holding canister. It does come with it. According to the description, this is a titanium alloy. I had, not knowing that, bought a high pressure air bottle. Now, I believe I've shown this in a previous video. It was black. What I tried to do, if you watch many of the YouTube videos on trying to attain a carbon fiber look, you use a shelving mat with square cutouts all over it, and wrap it in that and try spraying it. I tried that. One of the things those particular videos warn that I was not able to do was that mat really needs to be tight against the surface. I would assume it would be much easier and a much precise process if whatever you were doing was flat. This being a round surface, I tried to hold it on there as tight as I could, but some of the gray paint that I had bought got underneath and kind of smudged all over, so I just decided to paint the whole thing gray. When it comes time, I may do the same with the forearm after it gets cut and fitted to how I want it. My original plan was to do a carbon fiber look on this, but knowing how difficult it is, knowing it has indentation on it and curved surfaces, that's really going to be difficult. I may just paint the whole thing gray to match the bottle. But getting back to that conversion kit, well, the bottle is what took me from discussing it. You don't necessarily need to buy an extra one, although I do prefer. I believe I will, use this. I prefer the looks of this particular type bottle versus the long, thin one. But the entire unit is in pieces right here. I kind of disassembled it, was curious as to finding out exactly what is what. This particular piece has a gauge to monitor the pressure that is going into the valve. This is advertised as being a constant pressure valve, which means there's no shutoff of the air pressure. If you had a tank, a bottle, with a regulator that was a part of it, that had a regulator that could be backed off and shut off, you could keep all of your pressure in the bottle and out of the valve and the gun itself. From what I understand, once this is put together and attached, it's always going to have pressure. Now, it does have a regulator. That would be this piece here. It has a fill port. You could fill up your bottle from the regulator. It has a gauge to tell you the pressure that's in your bottle. That was the other thing. This particular bottle that I bought separately it's rated to be filled up to a maximum of 4,500 psi. The tube that comes with the kit that can be used as an air reservoir can be filled up to 3,000 psi. So I should be able to get more shots using this. The capacity of each is approximately the same. I believe it's a 0.2 liter bottle, which is, what does that calculate out to? I think it's 13 cubic centimeters, which is what the tube is. But the regulator itself, the airflow into the gun from here cannot be shut off. Now, the amount of the air or the regulated pressure can be adjusted with this nut here. Screwing it out increases the amount of pressure that's going to be going into the gun. Now, the instructions, although there weren't any, I shouldn't say instructions. That was one of the things I'm not too super excited about or pleased with, is the fact that it did not come with any type of instructions whatsoever. But it does have this little, ironically, fortune cookie looking strip of paper. This is all that comes with it as far as wording and how to do anything. It does say that again, it's quite confusing, because it says that the unit itself has been tested before it was shipped, and it was tested at its optimum pressure. Now, it doesn't say exactly what that pressure is, but it does warn you about tampering, dissuading an owner from advising, please don't, modify anything with the unit itself. It was all put together with the optimum performance in mind, including the position of this valve, brass nut that controls the amount of air going from the bottle through into the gun. It goes on to explain on the strip of paper that if you do want to regulate or change the amount of air going from the bottle into the gun, it explains that you turn this counterclockwise to increase the pressure. Now it does state that for safety reasons, a maximum of 10 MPa is what should be used as a maximum setting point for allowing air from the bottle to go into the gun. Now 10 MPa comes out to 1,450 psi. I believe in the description of the unit itself on eBay, although it doesn't say what it's set at the factory or wherever it's manufactured. But it does need to have, so it doesn't leak, according to this, it has to have a minimum of 5 MPa and can regulate up to what is recommended, up to 10 MPa. But from what I gathered from the broken English description on eBay was that, your cylinder and your valve between the barrel port and the bottle itself are always going to have air in it and be pressurized. So from that standpoint, that may be something, if you're deciding to convert something from CO2 to HPA, you might not want to go that route. There are other ways to do it. You always have to be extremely careful with high pressure air. And, there are YouTube videos where people have converted their Crosman CO2 guns to high pressure air using the stock components, making modifications, but still more or less using the stock components, which are not made to be used with high pressure air. But it has been done. I'm not saying you should do it. If you do it, you really certainly must exercise a lot of caution. Because when you're talking about something under those high pressures, 3,000 psi, 4,500 psi, if it were to get through a regulator and not be regulated to a lower pressure, you're certainly talking, something extremely catastrophic can happen. So, but when you have a separate, let's say a Ninja brand name bottle with its own regulator, it has a knob on it that you can, shut off the flow of air from the bottle through the regulator, which I've seen videos of people that have converted their guns and used something like that. That means the internal components of the gun itself, as long as you fire out the air that's inside, you can shut it off, so to speak, as far as having no internal pressure inside the gun and the valve. It refers to this as a constant, I think it says constant valve, and I think what they mean is, there is no shut off to this. Unless you empty out your bottle, you're going to have air inside your gun. As long as the components were built with that in mind, that they needed to have pressure inside of them, constant. I didn't have a problem with that. I'm kind of just putting my trust in the unit. I do want to apologize during this break in between the last portion of the video and this part. I did go back on and go to eBay's site, and on this particular package for this CO2 conversion to high-powered air, it does list in a drop-down menu. It says titanium alloy tube. Now I thought that referred to all the tubing that the various parts are made out of, and do you want it made out of a more compromised material or titanium alloy? And I picked the titanium alloy. That particular package was $179. Now, what that titanium alloy tube is referring to is the air reservoir tube. Now, you do have the option of not getting this. You can pick up one of these bottles for around 30 bucks. So basically, if you, in the drop-down menu, if you choose to get it without the titanium alloy air tube, is really what it is, it's a $99. So it's much more affordable. They're charging, do the math, they're charging $80 for this air reservoir tube. Like I said, you could pick up something similar to this or something like this for a hell of a lot less. So if you were to go with this particular kit, and I'll put a link in with the video for it, but I would recommend obviously not getting the titanium alloy tube. But having disassembled everything, just out of curiosity, checking everything out, you do get a bag with some extra O-rings, various screws, some Delrin washers, and I'll explain exactly what those are used for. They have 3 different thicknesses of wire. You get 3 different hammer springs, and you get a choice of whichever one you want to use. Right now, what I've installed is the thickest gauge, the heaviest resistance as far as a hammer tube, hammer spring. Basically, what I wanted to say was this is the hammer tube. Got the pin up here that will be drawn back with the bolt. I did take off the end cap and drill and tap it for a 1/4 20 thread, so I could use my motorcycle seat tighten down nut for a power adjuster. The other thing I did to this particular thing, and there's a hole right here. Okay, and that's the transfer port. There's a separate valve tube that goes inside of this hammer tube. and the ports line up here. Now this was threaded, and this is the transfer port. Now what I didn't really care for as far as this goes, number one, this half of it, the bottom half that goes into that tube that I just held up, that has the port that's threaded. The bottom half of this transfer port is threaded and screws into there and sits on and gets sealed with a Delrin washer. Like I said, there's extras of these that come with the spare parts bag. The thing I really didn't care for with the transfer port was having calipered out the hole, the ID of it. It's about 120 thousandths large, 120 thousandths diameter. And I thought that was way too small. That's really going to choke off the air and kind of would defeat the purpose of having a high pressurized air system. So, I did use my refrigerator tubing line, which I am going to use for a transfer port. The outer diameter of these threads is just under 230. But with that 120 ID and the tubing having an ID 175, really thought that was going to make a better transfer port. But that necessitated drilling out the threads that were in this hole. So that's no longer there. This transfer port, I'm really taking a chance. This transfer port really is useless at this point because of the material that the refrigerator waterline tubing is made out of. I don't need a Delrin washer for anything to sit on. But basically, what I'm going to do is reassemble everything here. Prior to reassembling everything, I did want to show the valve tube. Now, in the traditional sense that you would think of a valve that would come out of a, say, a Crosman 2240, this is everything for a portion of the valve is machined into this tube. There's nothing really to open up or to modify. Basically, it just gets sealed off with a brass plug that has a extremely similar to a Crosman valve stem, and pop it on the end. It does have a spring that gets loaded. It's coil shaped. I'm sorry, not coiled. Obviously, it's a spring. It's coiled, but it's cone shaped. And as far as the resistance on it, I think I'm gonna, I'm gonna try using and sticking with this particular spring. It seems to compress fairly easily. not overly hard. But I thought it was unique in the fact that it's this cone shape. But the smaller part of the cone fits over the protruding part of the poppet on the stem. And basically seals with O-rings and gets this brass plug screwed in to the point where the port that's in the brass plug lines up with the port in the tube. So it is similar to a Crosman valve where you can under tighten it. There's a hole in the brass plug that you want to line up with the port in the tube itself. You can, under tighten it and have those two holes be off from one another. You can over tighten it and have those two holes be off from one another. It does come with this neat forked wrench as well, which is necessary for removing this brass plug in the valve assembly. But as you can see, you can actually see the valve stem through the hole, but that's because the holes are lined up between the brass plug and the tubing itself, which has this port and counter bore. That's where that Delrin washer would normally sit. So now, let's do the reassembly. Well, basically this is it. Hammer tube, the valve tube inside of it, power adjuster, what this is called a Z elbow with the regulator, and then the bottle. Now, one thing I'm not super thrilled with was I went ahead and pulled out my 2240 and checked the OD of the tube. The valve hammer tube on the 2240, and it calipers out to about 880 thousandths of an inch. This particular tube is approximately 100 thousandths larger than that. It calipers out to about 980. Now, the concern I have is the fitment of the steel breech that's going to come on the Crosman Custom Shop 2400 KT. It has a radius machined into the bottom of it that needs to line up, fit fairly well especially for a good seal between the transfer port and the barrel port. So with this being 100 thousandths larger than the tube that's going to be coming on the gun, which I'm sure the radius on the bridge has been machined to match it, why this is the size that it is, I don't know. But I'll have to wait and see how everything works out. Now that's one of the reasons why, like I said, I bought this other forearm. If this ends up just being a colossal waste of money and not working for one reason or another, I could always just go back to the CO2 version of the gun. I probably would modify the valve and do other modifications to the stock pieces that come with the gun, but I will worry about that at that point. For right now, this is the HPA conversion package that I went with off of eBay, and until I get the gun, we'll just see how everything works out from that point. Thanks for checking out the video. Shoot safe, stay safe.